Welcome to Extension Connection on SuperTalk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the SuperTalk 1270 studio, this is Extension Connection.
All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. You're joined this week by the Burleigh County staff, and actually we have a special guest. My name is Shaundra Ziemann-Bolinske. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences agent in Burleigh County. But today we have Jan Stankiewicz, one of our area specialists. We're so happy to have you, Jan.
Thanks, Shaundra.
Okay, so Jan, tell us a little bit about your position. You cover the western part of the state.
I do, yep. So I'm an area specialist in community health and nutrition.
Right.
So I cover all of the western side of the state, dealing anything that kind of works around childhood obesity, family health, and community wellness.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, actually, it's great to have you. This is a great example of why Extension, in order to tackle some of the subjects you had mentioned, childhood obesity, just overweight and obese populations are over half in our county right now, Burleigh County, and really that's a very similar trend across the state. So we all need to work together because this is a big problem. And so Jan's position is actually a partnership with the North Dakota Department of Health, right?
It is, yep. A lot of
fantastic
my funding, yep.
Opportunity.
Yeah, and it is really just showing the importance of direct education, so what our county agents are responsible for, meeting the needs of their communities. And then my role, stepping a little bit back, is to kind of reach a little bit broader, a little bit deeper into those communities, and hopefully resulting in some long-term sustainable changes in our communities.
Right, longer term. Love it. Okay, well, today we are thrilled to bring you a program that really reaches everybody. Because if you know a child in school, especially if you have a child who is school aged, or if you know a teacher or you work in school, at one point or another, you probably will talk about school lunches. And unfortunately, sometimes they get, negative rap. And we have a tool that is sort of a benchmark tool that is used across the nation. It's a nationwide movement, and we call it the Smarter Lunchroom Movement. And it's actually based upon scientific proven strategies for nudging students to select and eat the healthiest food choices in the school lunchroom. So not just the students, though. It's really important because this is an experience that affects everybody during school lunch and even breakfast, too, because some of the strategies would affect breakfast. And so just a couple statistics here. So to date, and this is a new publication here, so to date, nearly 30,000 elementary, middle, and high schools have successfully used the Smarter Lunchroom strategies. So Smarter Lunchrooms are dedicated to providing schools with the knowledge, motivation, and resources needed to build a lunchroom environment that makes, quote unquote, the healthiest choice the easy choice. And so really this is, like I said, kind of a standard to being able to improve your health, your nutrition choices in the school. So not necessarily at home, but just at school. So this applies to, like I said, the staff that even makes the lunch, even the custodial staff. Maybe we start by talking about when we bring the Smarter Lunchroom movement to your school, who would be at the table on the team to implement this?
Yeah, so that's a really good point, Shaundra, is that the people who might be interested in a Smarter Lunchrooms movement, there's kind of a standard mix that you can choose from. Like a PE or a health teacher. Principals are a really great resource. Yeah.
Your wellness champion.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Or a school nurse.
Nurse.
PTO members are really great.
I have to plug the school nurses. I know for sure in Bismarck Public, even the private schools too, but we work so much with the public nurses. They are fantastic. What a great group of gals.
Yep, they really are. Each of them can be a wellness champion.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then students are also a really great choice to be on your Smarter Lunchrooms team. Their perspective is really valuable. They kind of give us a firsthand experience of what they go through every day in the lunchroom. And it's something, things that we don't necessarily think about when we are in the lunchroom observing some stuff. So it's really nice.
Yeah, the last time we were on a team, we had a 5th grader in the elementary level, so an upperclassman, and she was just really enlightening of, this was an improvement from last year, but we could still do this. And, she just knew the experience from having gone to the school for several years. And so could really answer some questions for us that nobody else on the team knew the answers for.
Yeah, and the Smarter Lunchrooms movement is also really great at incorporating a lot of different partners at the table. So naturally, we would think to work with the food service staff. So they are always going to be in our communication and contacts and also providing really great expertise. But some other people that we might not think of are just other parents who might be involved. Maybe they are passionate about health and wellness or nutrient-dense foods or something like that.
Or maybe your child comes home and says, Mom, I just don't like school lunch. Or Dad, I don't want to eat school lunch. Here's your opportunity to say, hey, I was listening to the radio. I heard about the Smarter Lunchroom movement. Call NDSU Extension and even talk to the teacher. There's a lot of moving pieces to put this together.
There are, yep.
But, there's opportunity, and we invite you as a parent to get the ball rolling if that's what's necessary. We certainly are active in several local schools, and so we want you to know that. But, maybe just asking the teacher if this is something that's going on in your school, and if not, how you can be a part of it. Parents are on the team, especially PTO members, but all parents, right, Jan, if you wanted to be involved. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And then did you mention custodial staff? Maybe I did earlier.
Maybe
they are a critical piece that we didn't realize at first. Certainly, very critical.
A lot of this stuff that involves Smarter Lunchroom does affect custodial staff. So if one of the strategies in the Smarter Lunchroom scorecard is to enhance the atmosphere of the lunchroom or maybe have it represent the student body a little bit better. So a lot of the time schools want to hang posters or make signs or do something, and naturally, we would think, yes, that's a great idea. That's a really good way to involve students in the lunchroom. Except a couple of times we've run into things where the lunchrooms are in a multi-purpose room and basketball games go on. And so if things are on the wall, they very easily get damaged, or custodial staff is always having to rehang them, those kinds of things. So it's really important to include those people, for their insight.
Yeah, so you know the details and aren't actually going backwards but forwards. Yeah. Well, that is truly a fantastic piece about the Smarter Lunchroom movement, just the multi-dimensional team that you can come up with. And so we really intend for it to simply be a continuous improvement opportunity, not to forget anybody, on the team. And so really, and every team is different. It depends on the needs of the school and where we're at. So that's very dynamic, very fluid. So it's not set in stone.
Yep. And just like Shaundra said, that no two teams are alike. It's also that no two schools' needs are alike either. So the scorecard looks very different across the schools. It also, what the team wants and what the team sees where the school is going in the lunchroom is also driven by the team. As Shaundra and I are the technical assistance providers, but we don't drive the decisions. We kind of facilitate things and provide guidance, but the team in that school really works on where they see the school going.
Okay, so I love that you said the technical assistance provider. So those are called TAPs. And across the state of North Dakota, how many do we have, Jan?
We've got 35 TAPs
Trained
across the
TAPs.
state.
Okay, which is fantastic. And some of them are extension educators, but some are, within schools, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we're about to take a break here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to elaborate a little bit about something Jan had mentioned, the scorecard. We'll talk about that as really the most important tool that we use in order to make sure that we are sticking to the standard and understanding how to measure the before and after. All right, so after the break, we'll talk a little bit more about smarter lunchrooms. right, welcome back to Extension Connection. You're joined this week by myself, Shaundra Ziemann-Bolinske. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent in Burleigh County, and delighted to have Jan Stankiewicz here. She's area specialist. And okay, so tell me the 3 areas that you're specialist.
Community health and nutrition.
Community health and nutrition.
Yep. Childhood obesity. So everything I'm doing is targeted for childhood
I'm never going to remember that, but I just know what you do.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, fantastic. So Jan and I are both technical assistance providers for a program. So that's known as TAP. We're TAPs for a program called the Smarter Lunchroom Movement. It's more than just a program. It's a movement. And it's offered across the country. It was developed by several partners, but really it was USDA who came to Cornell University, and they were provided the funding to, create the Smarter Lunchroom Movement. And so we actually had Cornell University come out and train us.
Yep.
Fantastic training, wasn't it?
Yep. They've been to North Dakota, I want to say 2 or 3 times.
At least
to
2.
Provide the training.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Fantastic set of leadership there, of leaders. Now, who was, what was the position she was in? They actually involve the economics area of Cornell.
Yep. They call it behavioral economics. So it's why do we choose what we choose?
Right.
And a lot of the times we don't know why we choose what we choose. And that's what the kind of the science behind it is, why these kids are choosing these things and why or why not, why aren't they eating these foods in the lunchrooms.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And so, like we said earlier, it is a proven strategy, the Smarter Lunchroom Movement, and we do that. Let's just talk a little bit about what the movement is, and we have a few just little tags to explain what it is. So we have, let's see, the Smarter Lunchroom Movement is easy and inexpensive to implement. That is the point. We want it to be easy for everybody.
Yep. It doesn't include any major overhauls or equipment to purchase or anything like that. A lot of the times it's just small minor tweaks or changes or different labels on stuff.
Absolutely. Or just, a fancy bowl instead of an unsightly stainless steel bowl or something, right? Smarter Lunchroom Movement grows school meal participation. Now, if you're an administrator, that is huge for you. So it's something that could hopefully be a win for everybody. You're able to sell more reimbursable lunches.
Yep, and that is one of the biggest draws for some schools and school districts is that the lunchrooms are a source or can be a source of revenue for those schools. And just think about it, if we're increasing participation, if we're getting more students paying for their meals or more reimbursable meals, like you mentioned, Shaundra, then that does result in a greater revenue for the district or for the school.
Yes. So also an opportunity to increase student satisfaction. They're just happier when they come home, and they're maybe eating more of their healthful lunch, and so not so grabby and hungry as they come home too.
Yep.
Really this program, we use simple evidence-based strategies to, as we say, gently nudge students to make healthy choices. And I think the key there is that it's evidence-based strategies. It's not just opinion-based, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's, some of these strategies could be not putting the hot vegetable, not have that be the first in line. Have something a little bit more appealing first in line, or offering fruits and vegetables at 2 separate locations in the line. So again, you're not doing anything differently. You're not having to make more of anything. You're just dividing it into 2 pans and providing it in 2 different locations.
Right. The location is really key, isn't it? And so it's part of what we call the choice architecture. There's a few different points that we could elaborate on, and I think we will in a little bit here. But I have to tell you, Jen, when I'm enriched a little bit, even just as I have my own we had a birthday party last weekend at home for our little guy, and we might have people over. Even when I do meetings where I offer a food choice or lunch choice, I have learned how to place the healthful choices in the right spots thanks to this program.
Yeah, it does make a really
so it
big
enriches
difference.
you in all different types of, when you offer food or snacks situations.
Yep, and that's it's called the Smarter Lunchrooms movement. So mostly targeted at lunches in a school lunchroom, but again, during the breakfast program or if at like staff meetings or buffets or something like that, it's the same concept.
Really, it is the same concept. And my favorite thing, it's evidence-based, so it will likely serve you in other capacities. So, and I just wanted to mention one last point here is that, naturally it increases the amount of healthy foods students eat and reduces waste. And so we can study waste, and there's actually kind of a fast way to do it that it was recommended by our behavioral economists, which is actually quite efficient to do. You can kind of just see how much is being, there's a controlled way to do it visually, which is neat to do. Because I do know that as soon as I talk about just school lunch, the parents will right away respond with, "Do you know how much is thrown away?"
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and the teachers and even
everybody's
the food service
alarmed by
staff. Yes,
yeah, and so it's nice to be able to sort of again standardize the way in which you measure that, and we can do that with the Smarter Lunchroom movement.
Yep, and not only measuring it, but some of the strategies with the Smarter Lunchrooms can actually decrease that food waste. So if you think about it, so if we've got kindergartners going through the line and they can choose whatever fruits and vegetables they want, so that's great. They get to choose, they get to dish themselves, which are all really good strategies to incorporate. But let's say those kids are just choosing them, or they're really busy trying to get through the line. By the time they sat down to eat, they're thinking about getting out for recess. And so if we can kind of slow down that process a little bit, provide some cues, provide some nudges, so those kids are actually thinking about what they are putting onto their tray, it's shown that those students will be more accountable to that food, be more attached to that food, and more likely to eat it, which then means they're getting those nutrients in their body and it's not going into the garbage.
Fantastic explanation. That was helpful for me to hear. And, I had forgotten about that, Jan, with dishing yourself as a strategy. Because there are, let's bring in the scorecard a little bit. So the Smarter Lunchroom has one of the key tools to its success, which is the scorecard. And we are able to, I think that how many opportunities are on the scorecard that we look at? It's 50, 60, 60.
It's a 60-point scorecard.
60 points.
Each strategy has a point.
Okay.
Yep. And there's different categories. So things like vary the veggies or focus on fruit, move more white milk, those kinds of things. So each of them have a category, and the scorecard is meant to just provide a baseline assessment. It's not really a scorecard. You don't pass or fail, so we don't focus on any of that.
It's not right or wrong.
Yep.
It's really opportunities to bring this, suggestion into your school.
Yep. It's really to highlight what can we do with our lunchroom.
So when we do this, we even take some pictures and we capture things that are appropriate to capture, kind of a before and after. It's nice to know your benchmark of where you're at initially and then where you hope to be. And that's what the scorecard offers. So 60 opportunities, we'll call them, for improvement. And so, like you said, no right or wrong, but commonly we'll be in the 20s on the befores.
Yep. A lot of our schools are really right in that middle range. So doing really great things, and a lot of it is guided by maybe a school district. So if they've got certain policies, then those things are already set in place, which is really great. But a lot of opportunity too. Right. And that scorecard team that we talked about, it's really interesting to see when we start a scorecard and we kind of have the debriefing meetings. They get really vested into what can we be doing. So we kind of start out with like, this is what we don't like. This is not great. So there's maybe a little bit more of a kind of a drag down.
Okay.
But then once we have the scorecard and we can highlight things, we can say, oh, maybe let's think about moving the fruit here, or maybe we think about changing the line here, and they get really excited. You can see that scorecard team really creating that spark.
Absolutely. So it can be even motivating. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. More about the Smarter Lunchroom movement when we come back. everybody. Welcome to the Extension Connection. My name is Shaundra Ziemann-Bolinske, Family Consumer Sciences Agent from Burleigh County, and I'm joined by Jan Stankiewicz, and we are talking today about the Smarter Lunchroom movement. That is something that we have really embraced with Extension Education. We also have other partners who are trained to implement this movement here locally. And so the Smarter Lunchroom movement, if you are just tuning in, is actually based on proven strategies to help nudge students and even teachers to select and eat the healthiest foods in the school lunchroom, making it just a better opportunity for everybody. Whether it's you want to increase the number of reimbursable lunches that you're selling at your school, because that is one source of, income or revenue for the school, what have you, there's an opportunity to improve your experience in the lunchroom. And if you work in a school lunchroom, you have an opportunity to voice what you'd like to see improved.
Yeah.
So what we do is we take a multi-background team and we put them together, whether it's a parent, a member of the PTO, a TAP, like Jan and I are trained assistance providers. We definitely need a wellness champion from the school, whether it's the school nurse or the principal. We put a team together. We use a tool called the Smarter Lunchroom Scorecard. We're going to talk a little bit more about the scorecard. We did introduce it on the last segment, but the scorecard is really your benchmark tool so that you can standardize opportunities for improvement. And there's 60 of them on the current scorecard. They are always improving the scorecard too. Mm-hmm. In the short time that we've been TAPs, it's been about a year, because I remember my baby was at the training and he's 14 months now, and we've seen a new scorecard come out. Yeah. So they're always improving this.
Yep, this one's just a little bit more refined, a little bit less labor intensive, and it's also available online now too. So you can just do it mobile on your mobile device and complete the scorecard while you're doing it kind of on the go.
Right. So please call us at NDSU Extension. Our number at Burleigh County is 221-6865. We'll get you to the right spot if you live in a different county and you're listening, and we will see what we can do about implementing Smarter Lunchroom review in your school. We're happy to do that. We want to improve your experience as you're consuming school lunches. And school lunches have come a long ways. So let's just talk about some examples that we can get out of a scorecard review. The first one I've got here is quick, easy things. So the first one, offers sliced or cut fruit.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to the whole fruit. And if you think about that, like with younger kids, kindergartners, first grade, a lot of them have missing teeth or loose teeth. So if they're having to bite into an apple, it's a little bit tricky for them. Maybe it hurts. Maybe they can't eat it as fast.
Right.
So having apple slices or an orange that's sliced into wedges, way easier for them.
Right. It was about a year ago, and I was researching something, and our specialist from Fargo had indicated some research that she had done. Regardless whether you're in school or not, you can increase consumption of fruit significantly. The number she had was 35 to 40% just by cutting your fruit. If you're offering it at a meeting or what have you, increase the consumption of fruit. So if you're putting it out, you want it to be eaten. And so offer sliced or cut fruit, many reasons for that. And so if you're in the school, sure, sometimes, when you slice an apple, it browns. So we can work through some of those situations, but you will increase consumption. You will increase the sales if you do that. Another one, offer fruits and vegetables in all service lines, especially if you have more than one service line.
Mm-hmm. The mindset there is that having the fruits and vegetables be an extra stop will deter people from stopping and getting more. So if they're just kind of abundant and in all service lines, it's easier for them to get to them. Well,
we have some other examples, but Jan, would that be an example of like a choice restriction? Like if one line doesn't have vegetable on it?
It could be.
I guess it would be an example. Let's talk about choice restriction for a second, since we've reached that topic. So offering a choice, and any parent out there probably can relate to this, I guess, or even not being a parent, just having babysat kids, when you give choices, especially even at the toddler level, they're more likely, give them choices that you're okay with, both of them have to be okay choices, and at least they'll be involved. They have ownership of that choice. And so making sure that they have a choice. So, for example, if you want them to eat vegetables, having carrots and celery be a choice versus only carrots. Believe it or not, you'll increase consumption significantly if you offer choices. So choice restriction. Use the milk example too.
Yeah, so choice restriction would be one of the things that health and wellness professionals hear a lot about lunchrooms is having chocolate milk offered every day. People are like, they just need to take the chocolate milk away, have it not be an option. Well, it turns out that is a perfect example of choice restriction. And some of the unintended results from those are that if chocolate milk goes away, students aren't
they're not going to drink it at all,
much milk.
Or whatever. Yep. And so right along those lines, another smarter lunchroom change that we found to be easy to implement is offer at least 2 types of fruit and 2 types of vegetables. So choices.
Yep. Again, the choices. And if a kid is allowed to make those choices, like you mentioned, the carrots and celery, if for whatever reason that day they aren't wanting carrots but want celery, because they got to choose it, they are more likely to actually eat it, which again is better for them and less in the garbage.
Right. That's huge empowerment. So if you're and we also use the term choice architecture. And so we're strategic about where we place those choices.
Yep. And it's providing those healthy nudges. You know, we're not taking away, we're not altering any of the menu items with the food service staff. We are simply creating an enhanced atmosphere of the lunchroom. There's choice architecture. So it's those little nudges that allow those kids to kind of, again, it's a little bit easier to make the healthier choice in that kind of a setting. And just think about a lunchroom. Lots of kids coming in, going out, getting their lunches, getting ready for recess, being excited about getting outside. You know, it's kind of a hot state of mind. You know, you're not calm and cool and collected while you're in a lunchroom. It is a busy place. And so those nudges will just make it a little bit easier for those kids to get those nutrients into their body.
That's a good point. So the hot state of mind, or, you know, even we call it also red versus blue is relaxed, a red state of mind. You know, and we can all relate to that. Think about when you get up in the morning, you're probably blue, but it might be only a second or two. You look at your phone and you have a message or something and it changes your state of mind to red and stress. And so we typically, and I believe that this is still happening, Jan, that the youth will be able to pick their lunch in the morning. Are we still doing that?
Yes.
And there's evidence to indicate that is because they're more likely to be in a blue state. They're just starting their day. And so they are more likely to make a healthy choice. And making that choice in a blue state is a better, a better opportunity to make the right choice, more likely to do so. And so let's see here now. There's one, keep milk coolers full throughout meal service. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that goes back to kind of the mindset of scarcity or abundance. So when we see food in a dish and there's only a few crumbs left, we aren't very likely going to be the one to take that last little bit. We're kind of concerned about the people behind us. Will they get enough? So I'm not going to take those peas and carrots because I'm going to leave them for somebody else. Or I'm not going to take that white milk because I'm going to leave it for somebody else.
Right.
So it's the same concept, this mindset of scarcity. We don't want it to run out.
Right.
So if our food service staff is filling those fruit and veggie bins, they're filling the milk cases throughout the service line, it will allow kids to choose those kinds of things regardless if they're first in line or last in line.
And I also have to, just like we thanked the school nurses, the schools that I've been in, the lunchroom staff, I mean, they don't really get breaks. There's a busy time where every grade comes through or whatever classrooms are coming through at certain times, and then they're filling. They're filling things up. So good job out there. You're doing some good hard work because we find that there is a reason for that.
Yep. And some of the things that we've been finding in the schools that we've gotten into already with smarter lunchrooms is that the food service staff, the things that go on in that lunchroom, the custodial staff, that is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
A lot of the times they are doing amazing things and feeding those kids. So.
Right. And they're able to do it, they're keeping it clean and they're getting everybody through in a way that's less stressful, which is significant. Remember, when we're more stressed, we're less likely to eat healthy. So that's important. We also have, we find it an opportunity to offer prepackaged salads or a salad bar to all students. All right, well, we'll take a break and we'll be back with Smarter Lunchrooms. All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. This week, I am joined by Jan Stankiewicz, Area Specialist, and I am Shaundra Ziemann-Bolinske, Family and Consumer Sciences Agent with Burleigh County. And we are happy to discuss this entire hour the Smarter Lunchroom movement. This is actually something that could be happening at your local school. And we are definitely implementing this in several schools here in Burleigh County. It's actually a nationwide movement, which is based on proven strategies, science, to help nudge students and even staff and teachers, and even, it affects the lunchroom staff and the custodial staff, to help everybody to select and eat the healthiest choices and to make those healthy choices easy choices. Mm-hmm. So your child comes home, imagine this, says, I don't want to eat school lunch anymore. I don't like school lunch. I mean, think about having heard this on the radio, because we have a standardized way to improve their experience. And you could easily get involved as a parent, because we have, multidimensional teams that we put together. And oftentimes we do have a parent and a student on the team. So what we do is we do Smarter Lunchroom scorecard reviews. So this scorecard is comprised of 60 opportunities for improvement. So we do kind of a before. We see where there's opportunities, and then we implement one or two or all of them, and then we do an after. Mm-hmm. And this is something that actually, from our perspective, Jan, we could be doing year after year just to see where we're at.
Yep, for sure. And so like the timeline of it, so break it down. So if we do an initial scorecard, see where we're at, have a meeting or two, and figure out where the team wants to take it. Mm-hmm. Ideally, we will have about 6 weeks of intervention. So that'll be a 6-week time frame that we've chosen a couple of strategies to work on throughout that time frame.
Yep.
And then any time period after that, we will do another scorecard assessment. The exact same scorecard. You're checking things off again. And sometimes you'll find that it will be exactly 2 strategies that you've implemented, and so your score will go up by 2 points. But sometimes the strategies that you implement, you can incorporate a couple of different strategies and get a couple of extra points. So maybe you've only changed 2 things, but it made a difference of maybe 4 or 5 points.
Right, absolutely. And okay, so one thing I really wanted to mention about this program is that, and if you think about now the elementary school level, excuse me, we give nutrition-oriented programs, and a lot of them are research-based, even evidence-based programs. So if your child specifically in Burleigh County is in 4th grade, they're getting the program called On the Move to Better Health, and that's actually an NDSU extension program that, thank goodness for our volunteers as well as our school nurses, provide that program. It could be a direct educator from NDSU extension too. But 4th graders, they're getting the nutrition programming in the classroom, and other grades as well. 5th grade gets something, and I'm in select 2nd grade classrooms. There's 3rd grade programs too, but just not across the entire county. And so sometimes what I hear is, well, sure, you can tell a 4th grader that this is a healthier choice, but what's the likelihood of if they're not getting those, healthy choices at home or, at school? Well, there's not much I can do about it because the 4th grader's not, buying the groceries. But actually what Smarter Lunchroom does is it offers an opportunity for a higher level of impact. And Jen's going to explain a little bit about that. We call it PSC, which is an acronym. Yeah. And so this is touching on that piece of that which the youth isn't directly involved in or able to, control. Okay, right. So PSC a little bit, because this is a program that amps it up. to cover that.
Yeah, and so PSE is Policy, Systems, and Environmental Change. So we are working to whether we're implementing policies. So all of our school districts have to abide by certain policies to offer certain foods every single day or every single month, those kinds of things. A system change would be maybe the flow of the lunch line.
Yeah.
So if we aren't offering fruit and vegetables on every single line, you change that system, you alter it, you change it one time, and it's done. So there's no maintenance, there's nothing, and the impact for those kinds of things are amazing because then every student is getting offered fruits and vegetables on any line they go to, whereas before it was only the kids who chose that line. So that's an example of a system change.
Right.
Environmental change is where we are changing an environment. So a lunchroom is an environment. Whether
just
kids,
like home is an environment.
Yep. Okay. Daycare settings, anything like that. And it's changing the environment of the lunchroom. So if we are adding student artwork, or if we are incorporating students working in the lunchroom, that is an environmental change. And it's shown that those PSE changes, coupled with the direct education that our educators are doing, that combination results in impactful behavior change.
Right. And that is a really good explanation, Jan. I couldn't have done it even close to that good. And so that behavior change is what we are targeting. And so as NDSU extension educators, and we educate, we facilitate, where there's kind of a matrix of where we want to be. And the highest level of impact that we seek is to change somebody's behavior. So the best example we can give that's very applicable to this is childhood obesity. And Jan is kind of becoming an expert on that, actually. And so, this is one area where if we can impact, a child's behavior as it pertains to nutrition and change the behavior that maybe they had some bad examples when they were younger. We find that by the time youth are fourth grade and above, they may have already developed significant behaviors around the choices they make with nutrition. And so we want them to be set up for success. So just an example of where it all ties together with the direct education and the PSE.
Yeah, and one really great example of kind of highlighting that partnership between direct ed and PSE is in one of the schools here in Bismarck. We found that the students in that school were not drinking milk. A lot of the students would take a milk, but not drink it or drink very little. So there was a lot being wasted. And so what the scorecard team had kind of wrapped their brains around was focusing on milk. So they named the white milk
something fun
to give it a fun name.
Yeah.
So the kids got to vote on it. So you're involving the students.
Oh, fun.
And then one of the educators from NDSU Extension kind of put together a curriculum for first graders at this elementary school because they weren't getting any nutrition education.
Yeah.
So it came from Smarter Lunchrooms, and now the first graders are all getting dairy lessons, a curriculum to focus on the benefits of drinking milk, namely at school lunch.
Right. Right, absolutely. Great example. I know it. So what happened was the scorecard review revealed an opportunity that we weren't taking advantage of, and then we responded by implementing something. And I tell you, I'm somewhat familiar with this particular situation. Now, can you imagine as an adult, I'm assuming adults are listening right now, even if you're kids, but going to a dairy farm. That's what they did.
That is.
To implement
a local dairy farm.
The understanding, which is neat. We actually do have, just think Salem Sioux out there. So we're kind of in the heart of Dairyland. So we had a couple opportunities to go, and we went to one out east. All right. Well, Jan, anything else about, we didn't touch too much on food waste, but we could do a food waste study with the scorecard review as well. We usually would just schedule another opportunity to watch during lunch. And so if you're really concerned about food waste, we can actually do it in a more controlled way. And
I would say, too, is tap into those taps. So we all know that school food service, the teachers, and everybody in the school are really strapped for time. So the taps are here, and we are the ones who get some of that work done.
That's right. So call Burleigh County Extension if you have questions about the Smarter Lunchroom movement. It's 221-6865. And one last thing, I encourage you to check out, we have Design Your Succession Plan starting the 21st of November. If you have a business, a farm or a ranch that you'd like to give over to the next generation, we have a program for you. So call us, 221-6865. Thank you.